Now on Enough Said with KFAN Radio's Dan Barrero and Justin Gard.
Donald, you're in a different spot now. This isn't Celebrity Apprentice
You're the
anymore.
president-elect.
And so now you're going to go back the other way, and that's what do you trust?
Enough Said.
Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. Have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
Welcome back to an historic edition of Enough Said. My name's Dan Barrero. Justin Gard is with me, and Lori Fisher is in the control room as usual to get us started. Hi, Lori.
Hi. How long have we been talking about this?
Seems like about 7 years.
The election
feels
is
that way.
Finally over. Donald Trump is our president-elect. Now we're talking protests, transitions, and the future. Dan, how concerned should we be? And could this be a case of Jesse Ventura all over again, and that it might not be a disaster like so many people say?
Well, I would say
that's quite a question. That's a lot to just limp into here. That's kind of like one of my
questions. There's about 7 components to it. Yes, I think we should be very concerned. I guess I have to start by eating crow. I did not think that he would win. I was convinced that he wasn't going to win. I thought it was probably going to be close. I couldn't have been more wrong.
You're not the only one.
No, there's a lot of people. And in fact, there's a great piece of video involving Keith Ellison going back, I think, over a year with your guy, Stephanopoulos.
George, ABC.
Basically saying, hey, don't count him out or that phenomenon out. And they couldn't have been more patronizing or condescending, mocking him. And he used the Jesse comparison that Lori just mentioned. Yeah, I mean, there's some let's face it. I mean, Trump won as an independent. I mean, technically he was the Republican candidate and had all that machinery, but he's not a Republican. He's not really a Democrat. We don't know what he is. He may be from Jupiter. That's always a possibility. So, and Jesse was an independent candidate. So there is that similarity, and it's what we talked about, I think, last week. What they both had going was they were outside the system, but they came equipped with names.
Big names.
That people already recognized. And in that sense, there's that comparison that works as well.
Do you feel as bad, worse, or better than we all felt on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning? I think I'm recovering from the initial shock of it.
Well, I'm come and go.
I think we're going to be fine. I don't think the world's going to end.
I hope you're right.
Now, there are a lot of issues that are going to have to be figured out. But the interesting thing is, I don't know who that guy is that we just saw in that video. I don't know who the guy is that's tweeting now, talking about unification and all of these things. That's not the Donald Trump I remember from the last 18 months or so.
The concern.
So I don't know exactly who we're going to get here.
Is that the guy who was coached to say that's what you have to say at that point, and will he revert? I mean, think of it. This is the surreal part of it for me. This is a guy who used to make a decision like, should I fire Joan Rivers or Penn Jillette on Celebrity
That's a tough
Apprentice?
Call. Harder call than you think.
Is the same guy who's now going to say, should I have my Navy fire on Iranian gunboats that fired on us in the Persian Gulf? It's just, it's still impossible for me, for my head to not explode on that basis, how you go from that to this and feel comfortable. Even if you voted for him and aren't a xenophobe and aren't a racist and aren't stupid, and we're going to get to that in a minute, that sort of generalizing that's going on here, you got to be going, man, I'm just taking a real chance here and hoping that translation makes from reality TV show to having the most powerful job in the world.
And what are we on? Friday now, so I think 71 days, until Inauguration Day. It's interesting. I guess I'd never really paid attention to what exactly goes into the transition, but what they go through and what they put the teams through and what the president-elect has to learn, that's quite a crash course, even if you are experienced. And they do that's what got me back to the nervous side, even though I am feeling generally better. That same thing is, they're going to put him through some explosions and some things, and he's going to have to make calls. I said, that's a lot to learn in 71 days.
We're going to go up and down, back and forth on the basis of the hires.
Yes.
Where he where he goes. I mean, he can take a lot of the tension off there. Yeah, go ahead. No problem.
I just wanted to show this tweet from Trump today. He said, love the fact that the small groups of protesters last night have passion for our great country. We will all come together and be proud. Real quick, what do you guys say?
Well, I think we're going to see his account was hacked in a couple of hours.
Well,
he's going to say, I apologize, but my account's been hacked, and I don't know who said that, but get off the highways. That's what Trump would say. That's what old Trump would say.
Well, in fact, old Trump had a previous tweet in which he was ripping the same people, saying, hey, we just had a fair, good and honest, fair election, and what are you out there doing? So it's almost as if somebody in charge said, Donald, you're in a different spot now. This isn't Celebrity Apprentice
You're the
anymore.
president-elect.
And so now you're going to go back the other way, and that's what do you trust at this
We're going to
point?
stay on this, but we're going to move to the Republicans. All those people who wouldn't endorse Trump, they wouldn't even call him by his name. They would just say the Republican nominee. How do they deal with the president-elect now, and how does he deal with them?
I'll leave that to you.
Well, great photo opportunities. I know we're going to look at some photos here. Him sitting next to Paul Ryan, closer than we're sitting right now, and going through the tour. And here's the Capitol Mall, and here's this and that. Here's my question, though. How many Republicans that distanced themselves from him lost, or how many that didn't? You know what I mean? Like the Republicans right now, we all assumed the party was in shambles.
Exactly right.
And their presidential ticket was terrible. And gosh, who will they even have in 2020 to try to rebound? And same thing with all federally and statewide. I think it's like 66 out of 99 now are Republican majorities when it comes to the state stuff. So do we know, do they have to make any decisions, or do they have to turn, do they have to change? We all assumed that the party was dead and they needed to rebound. It's like, well, here they are. They're everywhere now.
And that's their comeback, I guess, is, well, we're gonna ride it out. I mean, there's got to be a lot of awkwardness to it. I mean, to me, what you have to hope for is, and there's a couple shots with when he's meeting with President Obama, in which the look on his face, I don't know if Trump can ever look humbled.
That's a great point.
There was a look on his face like
a seriousness.
Oh my God, I'm running the country
It actually
now.
worked.
And so it's what we've said about more conventional candidates that we thought were radical or a little frightening. It was they get in the Oval Office and all that bluster and all the speech making, they go, well, it's not that simple, is it? It's a little more complicated than when I was just yelling it out, and that you hope they start getting that and they have the right people around them. That's another big part of it.
And here comes their team, Gingrich, Christie, and Giuliani. You ready for that? they're lined up.
No, I'm not ready for
They're
some
ready
of
to
them.
go.
That's where reach across the aisle occasionally, surprise some people with some of your appointments. That would be the best thing he could do. I don't think he's got it in him.
Let's get to Hillary
Sorry,
Clinton.
Lori, that was my fault.
She says that losing the election was painful, and it will be for a long time. Let's take a listen to her concession speech.
I feel pride and gratitude for this wonderful campaign that we built together. This vast, diverse, creative, unruly, energized campaign. You represent the best of America, and being your candidate has been one of the greatest honors of my life.
What is next for the Democrats, and who is their next apparent heir?
Well, probably Chelsea.
Yeah, I was going to say the Clintons.
Both, you get the Bushes and you got the Clintons, and they all got to stay in there. I don't know. I mean, but I do know that in the end, and I think some Democrats are figuring this out, whatever you think of Trump, they put up the obvious candidate, but a fundamentally flawed candidate that does not fit the time, which was, we want change. We don't even know how the hell to define it, but we want it, and we're going to take a chance on it. And the Democrats, for me, will be making a big mistake, and some of them are doing this too. They're already going with the old, well, it just shows you how many racists, xenophobes, and idiots we have, especially in rural areas.
Yeah, it's not that simple.
As long as they go down that road, they're doomed. If they don't see the bigger picture, which was, there are racists in the mix, there are xenophobes in the mix, there are idiots in the mix, but look at some good reporting that's being done from the heartland about basically old blue-collar Democrats from, in some cases, rural areas, some cases, Rust Belt locations, that literally have switched their vote because they feel left behind. They feel like we're not part of the great solution to the economic issues we have that we talk about when it comes to the cities. And if you don't address that, Michael Moore made that exact. Michael Moore ain't exactly a Trump apologist.
No.
And he's saying, wake up. This is a constituency that feels like they've been ignored. And so what do? He used the same metaphor I did. Molotov cocktail in the middle of the room, not even understanding who might get damaged. They might get damaged, but that's the approach. And that's what the Democrats, I think, really both parties need to realize, that those people are real. They're not all put in a corner like the cocktail elites in the East and West Coast want to believe that they're all stupid and they're all racist.
That's what everybody missed, including the pundits, though, leading up to the election as well, just how polarized they were going to be, how motivated they were going to be, the rural voters, to get out there, because no matter who you watched on Tuesday.
Coming up on Enough Said.
So I thought it was interesting when they said Vikings to stick with Walsh. I think you can almost write it. The Vikings are stuck with him. You can flip it around, because I don't think they can make a move.
That may be more of it
With all the stuff that went on the last couple weeks, for them to go out and act like my football team again, finally, I felt it was a good thing. And, I told them if I can get 6 needles stuck in my eye in the last 2 weeks, then they can suck it up for me.
Welcome back to Enough Said. The Vikings taking on the Washington Redskins this weekend. They're 5-3 right now. A lot of storylines, including kicker Blair Walsh. What happens to him? Dan?
He's on the team, at least for this week. Right?
He is, yeah.
Much to my chagrin.
Surprise.
Really much, very true. I thought, based on the guy you heard from, Zimmer, earlier the week before, or the days leading up to the big decision, it was almost like the ship has sailed. And that his reason was going to be, there may not be a better kicker out there, but there's too much baggage for my team to trust this guy. Forget me. And they backed away from that, maybe because what they saw was so bad. I don't know. Maybe they just were they didn't like the alternative.
How many did they try? 5 or 6 kickers?
Allegedly
something
5
like that?
or 6. Yeah, exactly.
Well, the money factor I don't think is being talked about enough with Walsh, and we've talked about the moves,
the ramifications of cutting him.
Yes, because he does. I don't know his exact contract, but it's a couple of years, and it's a decent number for a kicker that nobody likes. So when you factor in that Spielman had said earlier this year that their salary cap, because of Adrian hurt, Teddy hurt, Khalil hurt, and whoever else is hurt.
Right.
That's just dead money. They can't just go sign somebody. They can't just cut somebody. And so I thought it was interesting when they said Vikings to stick with Walsh. I think you can almost write it. The Vikings are stuck with him. You can flip it around, because I don't think they can make a move.
That may be more of it than has been reported. Do you think it helped that a bunch of first graders sent more letters of? Oh wait, they didn't send any letters of support.
No letters. Well, they're in second grade. They've grown up.
They've grown up.
And they finally realized, wow, we were stupid.
Let's not. We can't ignore the elephant in the room. Were you bothered at all by the new age, touchy-feely Phil Jackson-like Mike Zimmer?
The Zen master?
Suddenly it's like, they're trying, the guys are trying hard for me. And this is the guy who 3 weeks ago basically sounded like Trump. He wanted to fire everybody, for God's sake. So I don't know. I don't know if I like this. I hope he's not kidding himself. I think he's trying to sort of get him back, that maybe he pounded too hard the first week. But that was that was an improbable.
You're down on the loss.
That was a bad loss. Any other coach coaches that loss, we're ripping the team pretty heavily.
Well, he got ripped for the clock management. He got ripped for the prevent. But I think the reason he's soft, and we've talked about this a little bit on the radio, I think he is realizing that it sounded good. Next man up always sounds good. And maybe I'm being too soft. Maybe the fans are being too soft, and we're grading on too good a curve, because I know you're bitter about the loss.
Well, a little bit.
How it went down. And I actually agree. There were a few things you could build on.
Major breakdowns, though.
But where they were the last 2 weeks. Yeah, but the Philly game, terrible. Chicago game, terrible.
We're going to leave it there.
So I think I'm all right. I saw some signs too, but he's, I think, realizing the team has more issues than he originally thought 3 weeks ago.
We need a statement victory right now. Fair to say?
Against Washington. That ain't going to happen.
We're going to talk about the parking garage, the parking ramp near the U.S. Bank Stadium. Mills Fleet Farm is paying to have its name on the garage, but all the sponsorship money is going to the team, rather than being split with the ramp in the city. It was a Star Tribune story. Guys?
The rich get richer.
What's the story here? The Vikings are going to get something?
Well, and again,
that nobody else gets?
Yeah, and this is the kind of, this is the fine print that we never find out about when those deals are done, right?
Yes.
And what the Vikings comeback is, well, wait a minute. We threw in a lot of extra money. So as part of that, we want something back. But the problem is, when they made a big deal about, there go the Wilfs again, they're going to write another check for an extra $7 million that they were
biggest private contribution ever.
Did they also announce then that, but on the other hand, they're going to get some extra money from this parking ramp, for example? I don't even know that people would have ripped that. They might have, but wouldn't that be more honest than, we're not going to bring that up until, somebody found that out. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, technically.
Yeah.
The Wilfs are going to get, technically, they're going to get the money.
Haven't we been connecting dots on this all the time, though?
Yeah.
Like, I know it I know people get offended by it and they get outraged by it,
Yeah.
but that's the price of doing business, I guess.
You want to put up statues of the Wilfs now, don't you?
Aren't they already up? I assumed they were already up all over.
Well, and we'll pay for them.
I know. I haven't been to every level of the People's Stadium, but I assumed there were pictures and statues of all the Wilfs.
Well,
I thought those would be right in there. No, the contribution was always ridiculous that they put in because either gave it back with seat licenses, either gave it back with U.S. Bank, either gave it back with Fleet Farm, all the different corporate sponsors that they had.
They'd be in L.A. right now, though.
Would they?
If we didn't do it, I mean, and then we wouldn't have them to talk about. We wouldn't be able to psychoanalyze Zim. What's good about this purple thing? That we'd be out of
Rip first graders for
topics.
writing letters.
Yeah.
Well, we
Next
could
up, should
do
we
another
move on?
segment of Trump.
That's true.
We could
We're
talk
talking
Trump
about those
again.
First graders again. Let's move on. After an awful season, the Twins have a new leadership team. Senior Vice President and General Manager Thad Levine, who comes from the Texas Rangers, and Chief Baseball Officer Derek Falvey, who comes from the Cleveland Indians. What are these guys going to do for the team? Or what can they do for them?
We'll find out. They're going to do a lot of math. We know that because they're young and they're hungry
Analytic.
and they're smart. They are smart. There's no doubt just listening to them speak. Not that means anything, but it is nice.
Are they as smart as Theo?
No, well, no one's as smart as
No,
Theo.
can't by definition.
You can try to be as smart as Theo, but you're never going to be as smart as your guy, Theo Epstein, for the Cubs. They're at least in the 21st century now. They're at least doing what everybody else is doing, whether it's hiring a young general manager, hiring people that understand the numbers, hiring people that are coming from outside an organization, which actually I think is the most promising thing about both of these two.
Yeah.
Forget their age, their background, what their experience is, anything like that. The fact that they're not one of us, they're not brought up as an intern with the Twins, as a part-timer with the Twins, all the way through up. They have experiences outside of the organization. They're not going to be tethered to
And that's what we've been clamoring
everything.
for. Yes. And they're being careful. They're trying not to go scorched earth, but they should not be afraid to go scorched earth in terms of who's left, because the country club needed to be broken.
Yes.
And we've talked about that forever.
It had a good run.
It did have a good run.
Had a very good
run. I think
run.
they finally figured that out, probably for the wrong reasons, for financial reasons.
Yes.
It should have been obvious. And, you know, I got to say, I mean, they do present themselves well. Now, winning the press conferences and everything, you still got to make the right decisions, but at least they did that. I mean, at least we're seeing signs that they are plugged into good organizations that understand what other winning organizations now allegedly say you have to do on the basis of the, you know, sort of combination of analytics and old-time scouting. You can do both,
Yes.
I think, and merge and meld the best of both.
But those departments are getting bigger and bigger and bigger,
Right.
and I think that might be the biggest wake-up call for the ownership group, and I'm curious to see. Falvey in the press conference said, I have every indication that I'm going to get the resources I need. What he's talking about
Litmus
is,
test, yeah.
I need more people. What you guys were doing in terms of how many people you hired, what they were doing, what
Yep.
they were in charge of, was lagging behind. Forget about just the top two positions.
Like in terms of, like, other places have 20 to 25 people, we're sitting there with 8 or 9. Like
Something like that,
It's like a
yeah.
mom and pop operation,
Yes.
owned by a billionaire.
Exactly.
For God's sake.
And
Makes no
so
sense.
we've talked about the lack of investment just in the on-field
Yeah.
product for years when they didn't spend and it was, 50% of revenue and all that. This is a totally different discussion. I mean, these are things you have to spend on if every other team is doing it.
I want every move to be made, including your trades, to build pitching. And when I say build it, I don't mean you go out and get a guy who's great now. If you've identified 3 great prospects, go. I don't care if you have to trade Dozier. I don't care who you trade. I'm sick. I can't have another season where I'm watching those same pitchers work. And frankly, I don't think Jack Morris could either.
No, he would quit.
I think he would probably curl up in the fetal position.
Bert Bylevin might too. I mean, they keep cutting his games down. Maybe it's because he's sick of watching
And they know
the pitching
that.
too.
I think they know that that's
They do.
the key to this whole thing, and that's where this team's got some significant issues. That, and we're going to have to watch the Molly situation.
That's true.
They're saying all the right things.
Welcome back to Enough Said. We have a record number of lightning round topics to get to. Let's start with Patriots quarterback Tom Brady. He said this week that he is not going to talk politics anymore in public. His wife told him not to do it, and that he made the decision because for the good of his family. Justin?
I think what Giselle wants, Giselle should get, really.
She's the breadwinner.
Isn't it happy wife, happy life? That's the phrase that all of us use. Here's the thing. I didn't realize Tom really – I know that he's kind of friends with Trump and Bill Belichick's friends with Trump. I don't really think of Tom Brady as this outspoken football guy that needs to stay in his lane. He never says anything about anything.
I don't know if this is popular to say or not, but I'm in the group that isn't care.
Interested.
I just don't care who he supports, and I don't get the media obsession with it. Now I know it's going to become maybe even a litmus test and potential schisms in locker rooms because there's such strong emotions about Trump. But
Okay, next up.
Why is the
Why do we
media
care?
jackal so fascinating?
Because he's Tommy.
A lot of stars said they were going to move
Tommy.
to Canada or other places. Cher said she's going to move to Jupiter. Now what do? They said they were going to pack their bags. Did they stay or go?
They ain't going anywhere. Or here's the way it is from the beginning. They're all multi-gazillionaires.
They already have places.
Which is why I'm bored with all their predictions and their pontifications and their declarations in the first place. Many of them have homes in other countries anyway. And so what's the distinction? I'm not impressed.
Well, Jupiter would show me something.
Well,
if Cher
that's true.
could actually, did she really say that? If
she did say that, and there's propulsion
back in
issues
2015.
that might make that difficult, but if maybe she knows something.
But they're
Okay,
starting to
let's
go
get
up.
Yeah.
Let's get to the Rolling Stones. Take a look at this tweet from Mick Jagger. You know, after Trump's speech on Tuesday night, or I should say Wednesday morning, Mick said, just was watching the news. Maybe they'll ask me to sing You Can't Always Get What You Want because, you know, they played that. Do you think they'll invite him for the inauguration come January, Justin?
That's a great idea. It would show a sense of humor. And actually, it would be very Trumpian to like kind of stick the knife in one more time.
That's
like,
true.
I know you didn't want this, but let's hear a great song that talks about that. Remember Paul Ryan on one of the interviews months ago where he said, yeah, you know, we're the party of Lincoln, we're the party of Reagan. Sometimes you just don't get that.
No,
and you
that's
got to
true.
do what you
Yeah.
got to do when
Okay,
he was
next up.
endorsing him. But
Justin's best friend, his BFF, Alec Baldwin, may have a job for the next 4 years playing Trump. Do you think SNL will stick with him, Dan?
Well, yeah, why wouldn't
you
you?
have to.
I mean,
Look at it.
Well, the beauty of it is, does Donald Trump have enough of a sense of humor, or will he, when the media jackals are after him, to do dueling Trumps on Saturday Night Live?
I bet he will.
That's got to be. That's what you. If you're smart, again, and you want to try to, take some of the tension out of it, that's what you do, don't you?
Let's see where he is now, because he used to love Saturday Night
Yeah.
Live. Then they made fun
Then
of
he
him.
hates-
It's the worst show ever.
Okay,
They've
enough
never
said.
had good ratings.
Dan, I thought of you when I got my I voted sticker on Tuesday. I almost tweeted it and tagged you, but then I stopped myself.
I don't know why you stopped
will
yourself.
not wear your sticker.
Because I can't stand the concept. I just don't understand why we got to pat ourselves on the back for doing what we should just
about
do.
awareness.
We don't need production.
Turn out the vote.
We don't need to pat ourselves on the back, do we?
I'm a
Well,
little
actually, the
annoyed.
Democrats probably wish more people wore them.
That's their problem.
Because they didn't have enough votes. This
I
time,
have a
but
sticker that's still on the plastic or the paper, and at some point, it's going to
My
end up somewhere by you, and you're
Put it
not
in a
going to
My
like it.
scrapbook.
satisfaction
Next
is
up.
voting, not having to wear a stupid badge or a pin.
Don't say
God, don't
stupid.
go with the mob.
Let's
Sorry.
caption this photo. It is of President Obama meeting President-elect Trump at the White House. Justin.
There's so many good It's my
amazing.
favorite photo of 2016. They both,
Yeah.
neither one of them knows what to say. My favorite had something to do with Donald congratulating President Obama on the Cubs winning the World Series and then having him tell, well, I'm actually a White Sox fan. And
That's
having
not a
him
bad
say,
one.
I like that one.
Yeah, or do we have to pretend that we like each other
Yeah.
when we can't stand each other?
You want
And
my birth
And if you're
certificate?
Obama, you're going, that is what's the most
Last
sickening
up.
part is.
You may have heard this before, but those high-speed jet dryers in public restrooms may not be as clean as you think. They actually kind of kick out some germs. I'm still afraid of those, the rollers of the towels that
cloth?
come out
Yeah,
and then they
right.
roll back in.
Those are very healthy.
Who knew, Dan?
Well,
Very sanitary.
I was devastated because I thought they were actually healthier for you.
Yeah.
And Lori's talking about those the cloth deal.
Yes.
You know about also at O'Hare they got these basically sanitary seats, plastic that goes around, and allegedly it's new and clean. But how do we know in the back of the toilet
We
it
have
just
no
doesn't run
idea.
around over and over and over again? I would
No.
just be paranoid about the same
No.
thing.
I think we need hand sanitizer everywhere. It's easier, it's
Hand
cleaner.
sanitizer isn't good for you.
At all?
They learned that too, that it actually does not kill as many germs as you think.
Oh.
It might actually be toxic.
Well, then I don't
You
know
didn't
what
hear
to
that?
think. Then I'm going back to cloth.
Yeah,
I'm going
we're
back
done.
to the Lori
I don't
cloth.
think there's any hope is what it amounts to. And Trump's in charge. The top